Good morning, everyone. We're here today with King, and we'll be talking about getting jobs and positions you want in light of my new book available on Amazon or at my site, KingBlessDotCom. Capture your career, how to get any job position you want in 40 hours or less. And this week, we're going to be focusing on speaking to CEOs, business owners, and those high-power position folks who can tell you a little bit about how they got to where they at and what they did to become so successful. Today with us, we have Jason Duarte, currently the CEO of Monarch Tort Group. I'll let Jason explain to you who he is, where he's from, and what he's done to get it where he's at. First, can you give us a little background on yourself?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of Monarch Tort Group. We specialize in pharmaceutical marketing, advertising. We go out and help plaintiffs partner with the right law firms. So we have the attorney law firm structure to take care of that portion with the clients, but then we have the business end of it to take care of the marketing and the advertisement and all of the resources and process that comes into play with that as well. As far as myself, my background, I graduated high school at 15 and a half. Wanted to get out of school a little early, try to really get into making some money, figuring out how to create my path to life. And with that, went on an accelerated program and started working for a couple different companies, learned from some really great people. Took some hard falls here and there,
For sure.
and studied and learned, and definitely had some good opportunities given to me. And I've owned about 7 or 8 different companies over the period of that time, last 15 years or so, doing a handful of different things, and realized that if you know how to do business, it doesn't really matter what the industry is. You can adapt to learn the industry, but business is business.
I'm actually glad you said it. It's one of the focal points I focus in on is that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, whether you're trying to be the president of the United States or whether you're trying to be a manager at a mid-sized company or a small company. If you know how to utilize people, if you know how to utilize the marketplace and the advertising, everything that goes into creating a business, the numbers, the metrics at the back end, then you can literally flawlessly go anywhere you want and be successful. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's all about processes, procedures, and how you apply those things, and figuring out what that secret sauce is for yourself that worked with you and with your vision, but make sure that you know exactly how to go and set a good game plan and execute that plan. And then you just make your variables based on whatever that industry might be. But it's just about having that solid structure.
So one of the things I focus on in the book, and one of the things I wanted you to expound more on, is how would say someone who's unqualified or underqualified, or even somebody who is qualified, who's in the maybe they're in a mid-level managerial position, or they're a hard charger, whatever they do at work. What are some of the things a CEO or a business owner looks for before they say, hey, should I promote this person? Should I pay this person more? Should I give them more preferential treatment? What are some of those things you look for in them?
So there's no such thing as preferential treatment in business as far as I'm concerned. The numbers are the numbers, and as far as employees go, you do a good job, you do a good job. But preferential treatment is one of those things that, one, I think creates poor employees and also even worse management. So when it comes down to those things, it's figuring out, okay, so I'm in this job, I'm middle management, and I want to go here. So figuring out 2 things. One, how did you get to where you're at now? Because a lot of times people forget about what they took to get to that spot, and they get comfortable, and they get in that position, and they financially that's it. Maybe they don't need it, but they're looking at things and figuring out, all right, what am I going to do? Do I want this position? Why do I want it? But then go and look at, all right, who's doing that job now? And if that's your boss, in which it's a tough thing to look at your boss, I want your job, but at the same time, if that's what you want, that's what you want. So look at your boss and look at it from both angles. Look at what your boss thinks about you, not based on your relationship, but if you were managing yourself, what would you say that you do well? You don't do well because, hey, you get away with as much as you can at work if that's who you choose to be. But then look at your boss and say, all right, what does your boss bring to you as an employee, and what is he great for? What do you really like, and what do you dislike about that? And is that a personal thing, or is that something that you think is a flaw for the company? And then look at his boss, and look at the type of management that they have, or whatever type of relationship, if you know that. And then look at other companies. Look at what your competitors are. If it's a position like that where it's something that you can go out and you can look, whether it be a retail store, and look at what the competition is doing, and look who is maybe the marketplace top, and see how their employees and how their people handle themselves. Because certain brands and large corporations, they've got a feel. If you walk in the Apple store, it feels the same every single one.
Right.
Guess what? Apple's done an amazing job of creating an environment that's consistent. So, but if you also go to Walmart, hey, they're both stores selling the same things. You can go to the electronics department, the same thing. You're going to have a different caliber of employee based on training and based on management and based on structure. And they can be doing the same job, but I promise you making different money, and there's different opportunities for that. So for me, if I'm looking at an employee, I want them to look at all of those types of things and say, all right, here's what the best of the best are doing. Here's what the worst of the worst are doing. Where do I fall into that line? And then figuring out, all right, what can I do to better myself? What skills don't I have? What training don't I have? And for me, when I'm looking at employees, I want somebody who asks, That was actually one of my first job in management. I worked for a mortgage company. I was 18 years old and was doing lending, and I had just gotten into doing financing, and I was doing very, very well. I was killing the rest of my sales competition, who had been there for much longer, and we had a post that came up online one day where there was a branch manager position that was available somewhere else. But I was so new at the company, and I barely was learning the industry. But I knew that I wanted more than just that, because that's just my nature. I knew I wanted to grow and not just always be an employee. So I simply asked my boss. I said, "Hey," I said, "is it Kim?" I said, "I saw that post come up for the branch manager position." I said, "I don't know, I'm going to be here for like 6 months." I said, "So I just want to know, so the next time that's something like that's come up, what do I need to do to be ready for that?" And she said, she told me, she said, "Be a leader to your peers." She said, "You're obviously already outselling most of the people around you." She goes, "But be a leader and be a manager, even though you're not a manager." She goes, "And show that you can help build a team and help support the team and help the people around you." Because she told me to be a leader amongst my peers, and I was a little bit worried. One, because I was a little bit younger, and second, because I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I was brand new. I was still a new guy who was already, already ruffling a little bit of feathers.
And now you come
but,
in with it.
But instead, at the end of the time, it's people who are seeing somebody do better than them when it comes to numbers, especially in a sales organization, they don't have to like you. They're generally not going to because you're their competition. But I realized, well, hey, these people can either take my advice or not. I'm not their boss. But hey, at least for me, I can try to contribute to whatever I can and tell them, hey, listen, I heard you on that call. Maybe say this next time, this next time. So anyways, long story short, I asked. It was a very, very simple thing. It was something that I asked so that I could prepare for myself. I needed to know from my boss, what would I need to do to get there? It was my boss's boss. And she told me that one thing, so I started doing it and implementing it. And so as you go through that, you need to figure out what you want, what they want. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I think for anybody who wants to advance within an organization or grow just in general, they've got to want it. You can't force any employee as an employer to want more than they already want. But see the people who are really doing it and treating it as their own. As a business owner, that's for me the biggest thing. Somebody who treats their business like it's yours, and they're bringing you new ideas and they're talking about things, not because they're questioning the process, but they're trying to do something to contribute more towards it. It shows that they have a true interest there, and those are people that can be cultivated and developed.
You're dropping a lot of good knowledge here, so I want to make sure our viewers do get all these steps. Two of the main ones I caught was first, don't be afraid to ask. That's something I've told people, I talk about. You're not going to know what direction you're going in if you don't at least ask the person who's going to give you that promotion, who's going to give you that extra pay. If you haven't even sat down and had that meeting with them to figure out what is the guidelines, what are the metrics, what is it that you're looking for these positions, then you'll never get there. You're walking in the dark, you're walking in the woods, you're not paying attention. And the second thing I really appreciate was the creating value part. Find the ways to create the value. Find the ways, you're not there to be friends with anybody. You have a family to support, you have things going on at home, you have your own set of friends. You hope you can get that relationship to an intimate level where your friends are good, you hang out after work, because that does help the speed of work, it increases the speed and value you have at work, but that's not the goal. My question to you is, what would you say to someone who says, I've been in this company 10 years, I'm in this stagnant position, I got 3 or 4 kids at home, they have responsibilities, I have a wife, I don't have time to do all this extra research or due diligence or whatever, I have all these things going on. What would you say to that person?
You don't want it. If you're going to tell me that you've been in this slump and you know what you want, but you're not willing to sacrifice anything else to figure out how to get it, then you don't want it. You're making an excuse because you're waiting for somebody to push. You're waiting for somebody to hand it to you. If you really want it, figure out time. Talk to your spouse. Talk to your family. Say, listen, I'm trying to get this. I'm trying to get a promotion. Hey, I'm working an extra hour late, a couple days a week this week. I need to do some research. I need a little bit of time. Get your family's buy-in. Get them to support you in that, and set out some time, whatever it may be. Whether you take a half-hour lunch, whether you wake up a half hour early, whether you cut out on the gym, or whatever, something that is in your life that you can get away with. It's a short-term sacrifice for something that's much more prosperous for you and your family. So either you take the time aside to try to figure out what it is to do that, or you're not really that serious about it.
One thing I love what you said is get your family's buy-in. I don't think enough families do it. I can speak from a personal standpoint. My family never talked to me about, finances or their struggles at work or what they do or what they need. Whereas hindsight, I was looking at it, I was like, hey, if you brought this in as a team, you came home and said, we all need to be working toward this financial goal. We all need to be working toward this professional goal. It doesn't matter if you're in high school, middle school, how old your kids are. They understand just the same way your child can understand when you're hurt, when you're sad, when you're crying, when you're scared. That same vibe they get from that, they'll understand the same way you tell them, hey, I need you all's help as a family for us to get to where we need to go so we can live in a better neighborhood. We can buy better things, or I can support you. I can send you to those schools. So I think getting that family buy-in is an important thing that a lot of people kind of gloss over.
It really is, and it's, being a father and having my experience is, it's a very easy thing to look back at your partner or your kids, and for you know why you go to work every day. One, because you have to. You got to support that family. But it's easy to say, I had to work and defend it versus actually getting, because kids are in school, they're doing their thing. Your partner knows whatever their responsibilities are on that level, and they understand it. But at the end of the day, and you can defend quickly the time that you're spending at work for the sake of the fact that you have to do it. But when you want to really grow and you want to advance, you want to do those things to get to that next level, you need two things. You really need that support, and you need to have the dedication that, hey, you're not just going to work right now to make a paycheck. You're going to work right now to advance your career based on that period of time when you're trying to really grow into that position. And it's one of those things that if you let them know that, hey, listen, I'm putting this extra work because of this.
Right.
Not because, yes, the bills are going to get paid either way, but trying to get it to that next level. And so they know that, like I said, there's always going to be those strides in time where whatever it may require a sacrifice to get to that, but it's not forever. And generally, once you get to that point, there's going to be some relief, and generally there's going to be a lot of different rewards with that, because obviously you didn't go get a higher position to have less time or less money from it. So there are sacrifices that are required of that. So either you're willing to make those sacrifices, whatever they may be, or you can't, and that's a decision that you make personally.
Okay. So we talked about the mid-level managers, some of those folks who might be stagnant, or somebody who's on their way just looking for that extra edge. What do you say those people who are just starting the workforce, entry level? I just graduated high school, I just graduated college. I have my master's degree, but I'm still being told, hey, you don't have enough experience. At first they told me I don't have enough education, now I don't have enough experience. How do I get my foot in the door?
Those are my favorite people, honestly, because they're clean slates. And I mean, unless you're going for something where you need, some specific degree or something where you're dealing with people's health or something like that. Exactly. Unless you're a danger to yourself and others because you don't have the certifications required. There's always a way to get there. One of the biggest things that I've learned, I don't have any college education. I'm very self-taught. I've learned from everybody around me and everything I've done. Trying to make the same mistake twice. And I've had to work harder than everybody. There is nobody that can say that they can't. You can choose how hard you work. Whatever it is. If we're sitting here and we're going to try and choose together, I can sit here and try to work harder. It's not one of those things whether it's a matter of, I'm not saying you're not doing a better job, but to sit here and say I'm working as hard or harder than you at this, regardless of the outcome for success, that's what I had to do to get to any opportunity, is just outwork everybody. As you have that mentality coming into a new position and looking to figure out what it is, it doesn't have to be that job that you get into. Don't get your notion set on, oh, well, this is the job I want, so that's all I'm going after. No, figure out how to get there. There's other jobs in those companies, or there's other jobs around those things, or there's other things that can help build that, and outwork everybody else around you. And that's a decision that you can make every single day, whatever you're doing.
So, not to cut you off, to go back to the job part, you're saying if you see a job at a certain company or a position at a certain company, don't always just look at that position and get in there. Look at other ways to say, hey, maybe I take a different position, a lateral or maybe a downwardly descending position at the company, build the rapport with the right people, show who I am, what I can do, and then go for that bigger position 6 months, a year later, however long it takes.
Absolutely. I mean, going back to Apple or someone like that, guess what? These large corporations and a lot of places hire from within, but the reality is if it's a good company that you're going to go work for, they're generally not going to have somebody who's much more capable of doing what they're doing in the wrong position if it's a good, well-run company. So if you go in there and, hey, guess what? You're the receptionist because they needed somebody to answer phones, and that was the only thing you're qualified for at that point. Don't take it as you're too good for it, because guess what? You are now employee whatever that is, but guess what? You work for that company now. So just like I did, I had that opportunity, and I actually ended up getting that job that was offered previously when I didn't think I was actually ready for. My boss came back and they had when it was for about a month, and they hadn't filled the position, so she offered it to me. But she saw my willingness. And she saw that I asked, and she saw that I did what she was doing, and she came back and brought it up to me. So I know firsthand that as long as you're trying to do those things and you're working at it, it's only up to you. I mean, it's up to you what you're able to do and what you're willing to do. Don't ever let anything that you have to do to get there be beneath you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wrote about a lady, for namesake's purse, we'll call her Lucy. And she worked at the company for 10 years. She was actually one of the people who actually made me start thinking about, all right, how can we help people who've been in certain positions get out of them or get, or further advance their career? She was in the same position. I think it was at Bed Bath & Beyond or something, some home goods store she worked for about 10 years. And I knew her for about a year or two at a time, and we always talked about professional stuff, but she never said or showed any signs of advancement, and she never really worried about it. She was happy with what she was doing. It was an entry level, however, she was getting paid more than an entry level person coming in was because she, worked there for 10 years. However, it was one pivotal time that really caught her attention. They were hiring for the store manager position. Something happened to the current store manager. They left. They're hiring a new store manager position. Naturally she was up for it. However, they looked at a peer of hers at a different store, and that peer actually ended up getting the position. And the whole thing behind it was I tried to explain to her, I'm like, you didn't show any interest into it until they brought your best friend along. They brought your competition. Then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait, what's going on? Like, I thought I was a shoo-in for this. So I like the fact that you say, hey, you reach out and you ask, you show the value. You bring your family in the fold if you need to do it, but you're not just waiting for something to happen.
Absolutely, and I mean, even if you go on a job interview and you're rejected for a position, or you don't get that promotion with this, ask them what can I do better next time? Because either you're going to go take that loss, or you're going to go and improve on whatever you need to for yourself or for them, or you're going to figure out, hey, maybe this isn't the company I need to be growing in. And look at those things and evaluate it, and just like, okay, throw your hands up and figure out why you didn't succeed. And it doesn't mean that you didn't do a good job or whatever it is. Maybe you just weren't ready. But what can you do next time? And like I said, when you put your hand up, don't be loosey. Put your hand up and show that you're interested in it. Because guess what? The people who I've employed, you can see a lot of times people who are really go getters and and you know it. But there's a lot of people who guess what? They're not out there actually grabbing it. Doesn't mean they want it. It doesn't that they don't want it, but they're just not grabbing it. But they have all the qualifications. But I'm going to go after the person who's showing me every single day that they want it. I want them to treat my business like theirs. I don't want to have to each their own however they do their job. They want to come in and punch a clock and sit at their desk and do their job for 8 hours and go back home. Great, I have no problem with that. There's a place for everybody in every position. But those people who really show it and are coming in and they're trying to bring good ideas to you and they have good questions. That's one of the best things for me. Like when I've interviewed people is candidates who have more questions for you than you have for them, for me, is a great sign because it shows that they're really trying to process it. They're not just trying to get a job. They're trying to find something. They're trying to find that path for them.
Right.
Because just because you need to fill this position doesn't mean that that's the job for them. So as a candidate, if you're going in, ask good questions. Really figure it out and ask them as an employer. Figure out both ends. Don't just try to tell them what they need to get that for you to get that job. Figure out is that the right fit and what all those things that it encompasses with that to make sure that makes sense. But it also shows that you're thinking about the position itself, and you're not just waiting to see if they're going to give you a check every week.
See, I'm loving all the information you're providing. We're definitely going to have you back because you're hitting on a plethora of things. And check the notes under the YouTube, the video today, and I'll make sure I include some of the key things we hit, some of the things you need to key in on. What would be the one thing you want to leave people with? If it doesn't matter if it's mid-level, entry-level, what's the one thing, if a person picks up this book, or if a person says, hey, I want a better position, I want a better job, I want to make more money, I want the perks that come along with having this position, what's the one thing you would tell them?
Don't wait for it to fall in your lap. If you want something, whatever it may be, you can get it. There's just a path. It's not going to be easy. It might be. Depends if you get lucky. Depends if things happen. But don't expect it to be. Don't expect it to be easy. Figure out what it is you want. Write it down on paper. Figure out how many steps there are to get there. And start working and making a divided effort every day with whatever you're doing towards that goal. And don't just wait for the opportunity to fall there. Preparation and opportunity equals success. And you can plan those things out well, but you got to think as big as you want to think, and then you got to figure out, okay, I know I want to go to LA from San Francisco. How do you get there? Look at a map. And then you figure it out on the way how hard it's going to be.
Right.
So you can do the same thing with your career, but you got to sit down, you got to really think about it, and not just go out there and get a job. It's very different from getting a career. Book's amazing. Congratulations, like I said again. There's the only people stopping you from your dreams are yourself.
I appreciate it. Last thought, big game. Who's going to be the winner and why?
Oh, I'm going to say Tom Brady. I mean, in New England, they've been there so much, and I mean, Atlanta looks good, but I mean, Tom Brady just you don't bet against somebody like that.
And you heard him. Let's see if his sports knowledge is as good as his business knowledge. Again, folks, this is a CEO and President of Monarch Tort Group, Jason Duarte. We appreciate you being here at the time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.